Hello, welcome to a new episode of Sarah's Room. How have we been this past few weeks? I hope we've had a great time. On today's episode, we'll be talking fated hearts. I decided I was going to do a review on an ongoing C drama because I felt like there were a lot of elements in the drama that we could possibly talk about, and one of those elements is has to do with one of the female characters, but we'll leave that aside for now. We'll get there. So to give you a bit of a background, it's about two warring kingdoms, right? Jinxu and Susha, but mostly on Susha because the main character, the male lead character, is lives in Susha, is the first prince of the kingdom of Susha. Uh, his mom is dead, but he has a stepmom, and he has a younger sister and then a stepbrother. So he's like the first prince of the kingdom, and he is known as the killer god of Susha, like because he's a general in the army and he basically controls the army, like half of the army, not all the army, because even in if you're someone who reads a lot of Chinese novels, one of the first things you understand is that no matter how much of a royal person you are or a member of the royal family, you are not given complete and total control of the military or any part of the kingdom. The only person that can control everything is the emperor, not any member of the kingdom, or not just any member of the royal family, because they don't want a situation whereby somebody will decide one day that, why is my father sitting down there? My father should not sit down there again. My father should get up and go. They don't want anybody to do that. So you're literally like giving a faction to handle, but still, it didn't still stop. That has never really stopped coups from happening. I said coups, sorry, coups from the coup d'etats from happening, like in the kingdom. And it's a pretty normal thing that when you are in that position as the emperor, everybody wants your throne. So I think that's one of the things that C-dramas has always made clear, that so long as you're on that throne, everybody wants it. Your son could want it, even your daughter could want it. Anybody at any given point in time could want your throne. So it's a pretty normal thing. Now that we understand that, let us move in. So like I said, two warring kingdoms, two warring factions, Jinxu and Susha. So now we're focused on the first prince of the Susha kingdom. His name is Feng Suge. So Suge is more of this cruel character, but you could tell over when you keep watching, at first you see him as a cruel person, somebody who's going to do anything to win. And then in later episodes, you begin to understand his character, that it's not like as if he always wants to win or something. It is that he has no choice but to do this, because if he doesn't do this, because let me put it to you this way, that if he is not a cruel person, he would lose his life. The best way to explain that is to say that if he didn't become who he became, he would have found it very hard to survive in that palace, especially with a stepmother, one who literally orchestrated his mother's demise. Though I would explain to you why his mother's demise really wasn't. It was not like as if they orchestrated it and then the emperor did not have any choice. They had a choice. He went along with it because of his own selfish needs. Because this was a woman that helped you. Let's give a backstory into his dad, right? There was no kingdom called Susha before. His dad brought people together and said, okay, let's form a kingdom, let's form Susha. They created Susha along with his wife, the original empress. The empress says, look, I don't want to be an empress, okay? I want to have a normal life. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to go out into the world and help people. I don't want to be stuck in a palace. And so at first everything goes well, right? The emperor creates a home outside of the palace for her and the kids. So she's there. So most times she doesn't stay in the palace. She would go with the king to uh, the other home where they have, and they would spend a lot of time there in that home, and everything was going perfectly fine and well. And then, but the emperor was fine with this at first until she started having kids. Like she had the boy and the girls, Sugui and his sister. So all of a sudden, the emperor was like, "Ah, my first son, we have to make him crown prince, this and that." And she was like, "You cannot make my son crown prince, so the only reason why you cannot, it's not like as if you cannot make him crown prince, but you cannot make him crown prince right now. There's no there's no need to make him the crown prince now. Can we let him being the crown prince be his decision and his choice, and in the meantime just let him have as much fun as he wants?" But the emperor was not satisfied with this. He wanted his son to be the crown prince. He wanted his son to inherit the throne, and he knew that if the mother kept having a say in the life of the boy would probably choose not to become the crown prince. I would instead choose to follow in the footsteps of his mother. So it became like he was now looking for an excuse to dethrone his wife. So when these people, the other lady and her father, brought up this little allegation against the wife, that the empress, that she's a spy or something like that, he went along with it, and then they killed her because he wanted his son to become the crown prince and seize the throne from him. That was his brilliant little idea. But so all this happened, but he also forgot one very basic thing, was that the other lady that orchestrated and he went along with to murder his wife also has their own thoughts and ideas. And one of her thoughts and ideas is that nowhere in God's good earth would she allow Feng Shuge, the firstborn, not her own child though, become the emperor. Because that is what they always do. They will be like, "It's my own child, it will never be an outsider's child." So she was doing everything in her power along with her father to make sure that Feng Shui doesn't make it. So he had to become literally a cruel person in order to survive in that area. So you could understand how, like, it gave a lot of should I say weight, or I think weight is the perfect word to use. It gave a lot of weight to Feng Shui's character and made it obvious like why things were happening that were like that in that kingdom at that particular point in time. So the whole drama doesn't just start off like with him in the kingdom or anything. The whole drama starts off where he goes to fight a war against the Jingxi kingdom, and then he loses by a slight margin. He won't have lost, but other forces were at play, so he lost by a slight margin. So that happened, and then he has to come back to Sha, and then he meets the other general from Jingxiu. He brings her back with him. They fall in love. Go and watch that part. So anyway, I'm just trying to like give background to most of the characters. Then we have his sister. So after he lost the war and he came back, they were like, the prime minister, who is the father of the current empress, which we've talked about, right? They have this brilliant little idea that, there are other ways to like settle this issue. We don't always have to go to war, right? Then Jingxiu brings a wedding proposal, and they're like, so for us to have peace, so we don't have to fight all the time. Here's a brilliant idea. You give me your daughter in marriage to my son. Mind you, the prince they wanted her to get married to is basically a useless prince, because he was supposed to be the current emperor, but because of his stepmother too, the stepmother enthroned her own son. That's how he became a general. Like, he's literally useless. Nobody likes him in the kingdom. But he's a cool person, but nobody really likes him. He's not even a cool person like that because he's a betrayer. But we get to the point. They're like, okay, so you marry your daughter to our son. And Francis Gray is like, people you've been fighting with, you now want to go and marry your daughter to them. Why can't they marry their son to us? Why must you marry your daughter to them? And I understood where Frank Suge was coming from, because in ancient China, women were basically treated more as chattel, or uh, they were treated more as chattel, or like things you just sell and buy. There was no, women didn't really have much of a basis, and even the ones that had much of a that had a bit of basis, they had to struggle and fight for it. So when we talk about feminism, like in any country, in any country of the world, in any place, let me assure you that women have had to fight for those few rights that they have. So feminism is one of like the most important things that it has given us, this generation. It has given us a lot of freedom as women. Feminism has really helped in giving us a lot of freedom as women, because if it was back then, anyway, let us move on. So he was like, she's not going, no, she would have to stay. Like, you can't marry off my sister to these people. Like, and the sister meanwhile had this brilliant idea, because apparently she had met that prince before, and she had fallen in love somehow. She was not, she insisted on the marriage herself, that she was going to get married because she was in love with the guy. And she even went against her brother. So her brother was like, okay, cool, that's fine, let's do it the way you want. But he would have to stay in Susha. He cannot leave Susha. He would remain in Susha, because that's the only way I can ensure that you are not being treated badly or anything, and you are safe. This girl says, okay, she has heard. In fact, even before the wedding, when she was fighting with her brother, her exact statement was, if I remember correctly, was they should allow her marry him because she believes she can change him. Assistant Jesus. You know how I said in the beginning that there's a particular character that we needed to have a conversation? This is the character. This is the character right here. His sister is the character. Because how do you change a man? Like, you don't even change a woman. You don't change people. People change because they want to change. Even Jesus himself couldn't change his disciples. They changed because they wanted to. They changed because they saw reasons why they had to change. You cannot wake up one early morning and decide you want to change somebody. You cannot change anybody. You don't change people. And that was the most brilliant idea that she had, that she could change him. I was like, Assistant Jesus, I do hope she has her own 12 disciples, because she will need people to propagate her story, because she will see Shege, and indeed she saw Shege. Anyway, you know how I told you, like, the brother arranged it so that the guy could instead come to the kingdom, and then he wouldn't leave, and he would be in their kingdom where they could keep an eye on him and everything. Mama said no. She woke up the following morning, pack her clothes, told the boy that so that he can fall in love with her and everything, she would help him escape her own kingdom. She now helped him escape and took him with her to Jingsu Kingdom. It is when she gets to Jingsu Kingdom that she realized that, you see, there's a difference between Tom Tom and Mickey. I really love the fact that she learned the hard way, because if she didn't learn the hard way, I would be offended. But the fact that she learned the hard way alone gives me a lot of joy. She needed to learn the hard way. That is the best way to put it. Like, she needed to learn the hard way. I need you to understand that in ancient China, for your brother to be like, you don't have to marry if you don't want to get married, I can help you, and you insisting that, back in ancient China, nobody go tell you say they go help you if they don't marry you off. They don't marry you off with that. Like, that's the end. Even if your husband is killing you or beating you in the house, it's nobody's business. The fact that her own brother was willing to defy the emperor for her, and even the emperor himself, her father, would, if she has opened her mouth and said she doesn't want to marry this boy, her father would have found a way around it. The fact that she decided she was going to get involved in the issue, and now she has seen what she's looking for now, because the episode I've gotten to now, she's going through it. She's definitely going through it, but there's very little anybody can do because there's nobody to protect her. So so now she's experiencing it, and this just brings me to like the entire point of the whole podcast, the whole conversation, which is that if you as a woman, you are given options, you have options, you have privileges, something that a lot of people do not have, please take advantage of them. Take advantage of them, because now she's where she's going through a lot, and she's realizing that life is not the way she thought it was, and that she's realizing that her parents, her dad and her brother were busy protecting her back then. Now she's realizing it, but there's very little that she can do about it, because nobody's here to protect you now. You are very far away. So the fact that now she's understanding that brings me a lot of joy. So for me though, like, I've not gotten to the end of Fated Hearts and everything, but I think basically like her story is going to be one of there's probably going to be a little bit of a redemption arc, but it's not really going to matter that much, because you see that suffer, she will suffer it. I'm a very big believer in facing the consequences of your actions. You must face the consequences of your actions, because understanding that there was no choice back then, and now realizing that you actually have options and choices, but you decide to not make use of those your options and your choices, speaks a lot to the thought process that she had. So it's that thought process that I really wanted to bring out, and I wanted us to actually talk about. That thought process is just weird, and it's awkward, and it's wrong. And this is like the longest podcast we have done. But anyway, like, that's basically what I wanted us to know. And if we have the opportunity, please do let's watch Fated Hearts. Fated Hearts is awesome. It's still ongoing. I think it's almost done. I'm not sure, but it's ongoing, so you can probably just watch it. It's amazing. It's very, very nice, and we would have a proper conversation about the history of feminism in the next podcast. But I just thought we should give it like a foundation to the basis of the conversation in the next podcast. But before we have that next podcast, we're having an event, an offline event, on the 25th of October. It's a small offline event. I just wanted to meet a lot of the people who have been listening to my podcast, and some of them are coming. So yeah, so I'll be cooking, I'll be making a few dishes and everything. So I would totally do a TikTok live of the menu prep for it, and then we would have a TikTok like the party would be streamed live on TikTok and maybe Instagram as well. So I might upload it on YouTube. I don't know yet, but I'll sort out the logistics and get back to you guys. But if you have the opportunity, please check it out on Twitter and Instagram. So till next time, let's read the book, let's have fun, let's enjoy ourselves. Bye.